Hi, and welcome to Class Kenjo Lesson 2, Assigning Points. Now that we have our class list loaded up, we're going to start to assign points, and there'll be three main ways that we do that. We'll first begin with just clicking on an individual's name. We'll click on Mr. Alfred here. And as you can see, this is Alfred's progress report, and it's blank because we haven't given any points yet. So to give points, you're simply going to click down here on Input Behaviors, and we're going to say that he completed his homework. So we're going to click on that, and then you simply click Enter, and you'll hear it chime, and it gives a positive encouragement phrase of fantastic, and you can see that Alfred now has 1 point. Okay. All right, the next thing we're going to do is go into attendance, because this will be important for the next couple of ways that we give points. Under attendance, if nobody is selected as being present, then when you give points to the entire class or to a particular group, then those students will not get the points. I'll demonstrate how that works in a moment, but first let's mark all of our friends as being here. You can either mark them all present, all absent, or any combination thereof. I let my students take their own attendance as they come in the door. I keep this up on the smartboard. So I'm going to mark everybody here. This is important to not have the blank students as being present. We'll go back to our home page. Okay, now we are going to give points by way of multiples. And multiples simply means I'm going to give everybody a point, for example. So I click Select All. Let's say the entire class was being on task. So I'll go to Input Behaviors. I'll select On Task here. I'll select Enter. There's that random positive encouragement phrase. And you can see that everyone now has 1 point, with the exception of Alfred, because we had given him a point previously. Let's click on Alfred, and you can see that here he had his homework completed. He was also on task. Go back to the home page, and if you went through each of the students, you'd see that they all had a point for being on task. Let's go back to the home page, and we'll try a multiples, but not selecting everybody. So we'll click multiples. Let's just do every other one, just to make it interesting. Every other student, and we'll do an input behavior, and this time we're going to select, let's say their behavior report was not signed. We'll enter that. They need to try harder, and you can see now half of the class has gone back down to 0, which shows up as a blank. So if you see a blank, you just note that's a 0. And so you can see the behavior report was not signed. And that does, negative comments show up as italicized in bold. Makes it easier to see when you print your reports. But that's another lesson. Okay, let's go back to the home page. Let's go back to multiples. We'll select all again. And we'll put another behavior in, let's say teamwork. Enter. See that everybody got a point for teamwork, and if you click on Philip here, you can see that teamwork is actually worth 2 points, and that is set by, if you go to the roster, you can see that teamwork here is worth 2 points. That's why it shows up as a 2. Back to the home page. Let me show you how the attendance works. So if you go to attendance, and let's say our last 3 kiddos are not here, Doris, Sandra, and Philip. Click Input Attendance. Go back to Multiples. Everybody is still selected. We go to Input Behaviors. Let's say everybody was working hard. Now when you look at our students, let's say Ralph, for example, he was working hard. However, Doris did not get that point because she's absent. Sandra, no point. And Philip, no point because they're absent, or we marked them absent. We'll go back to attendance. Let's mark them as being here. Input attendance. And let's go to the final way of assigning points. It's by way of groups. If you remember over here on the roster, in the previous lesson, we assigned our students to groups. So when we select groups, you can say that everybody at table 3 had good manners. So let's look to see who was at table 3. Table 3 was Fred, Chris, Christine, Sally, and Ken. So let's say Fred, good manners. Chris, good manners. Christine, good manners. Sally, good manners. Ken, good manners. Bobby does not get that point because Bobby wasn't at that table. Now, the attendance works for this as well. Let's say Ken is absent. Input attendance. Go back to groups. So everybody at table 3, let's say, was following directions. Enter. And you'll notice that Sally at that table was following directions, but Ken was not because Ken we marked absent. Bobby's not at that table. Christine is at that table. So you can see that here. All right, so that covers lesson 2, assigning points. Thank you for your time.